Today, we're going into Project 2025, The Breakdown. This initiative has sparked widespread discussion and concern, and we're here to dissect every aspect of it. Project 2025 and why it is so alarming. Project 2025 is a comprehensive plan proposed by conservative think tanks and political groups aiming to reshape American governance and policy by the year 2025. It includes a series of bold reforms that touch upon almost every aspect of government and society. This project's sweeping changes threaten to undermine democratic institutions and erode the rights of minority communities. At its core, Project 2025 seeks to reduce the size of the federal government, enhance executive power, and roll back regulations. The goal is to create a more streamlined, efficient government that operates with minimal interference in the lives of its citizens. However, the specifics of this plan raise significant concerns about the potential for abuse of power and the impact on vulnerable populations. Along with Project 2025, some of you have asked, what is Trump's Agenda 47? Donald Trump has aligned his proposed Agenda 47 with Project 2025. This agenda focuses on restoring what Trump calls American greatness through deregulation, tax cuts, and a strong stance on immigration. Trump's vision emphasizes economic growth and national security, but has been criticized for prioritizing corporate interests over those of ordinary Americans. Some have also asked, what is the mandate of leadership? The mandate of leadership is a guiding document for Project 2025, providing a detailed blueprint for policy changes. It outlines specific actions for federal agencies to take, aiming to shift power from bureaucrats to elected officials and reduce what proponents see as government overreach. This approach risks dismantling essential protections and services. Why it is considered harmful for minorities. One of the most alarming aspects of Project 2025 is its potential impact on minority communities. The proposed policies could exacerbate existing inequalities and strip away vital protections. Let's explore these concerns in detail. Now let's look at the main parts of Project 2025. This initiative is broken down into several key areas, each with specific goals and plans. Understanding these sections will help us see why this project is so concerning, especially for minority communities. So, let's take a closer look at what Project 2025 aims to change and why these changes could be harmful. Administrative state reform. Reforming the administrative state involves reducing the power and scope of federal agencies. While proponents argue this will make government more accountable, the fear is that it will weaken the enforcement of civil rights, environmental regulations, and labor protections. For example, one proposal under Project 2025 suggests dismantling the Environmental Protection Agency, EPA, or significantly reducing its authority. Proponents believe this will cut down on bureaucratic red tape, making it easier for businesses to operate and boosting economic growth. However, reducing the EPA's power will lead to weaker environmental protections, resulting in increased pollution and health risks, particularly in low-income and minority communities that are often disproportionately affected by environmental hazards. This illustrates the broader concern that scaling back federal agencies could lead to diminished protections and oversight, harming the very communities that need these safeguards the most. Judiciary. Project 2025 calls for appointing judges who adhere to strict constitutionalist principles. This could lead to a judiciary less likely to support progressive policies and more inclined to roll back civil rights advancements. For example, if judges who strictly adhere to constitutionalist principles are appointed, they might be less supportive of decisions like Brown versus Board of Education, which mandated the desegregation of schools, or Obergefell versus Hodges, which legalized same-sex marriage. These judges may also be more likely to overturn or undermine precedents that protect voting rights, affirmative action, and other civil rights initiatives. Such a shift in the judiciary could lead to significant setbacks in the legal protections and rights that minorities and marginalized groups have fought hard to secure over the decades. Economic policy. The economic policies proposed under Project 2025 focus on tax cuts, deregulation, and reducing government spending. While these measures might stimulate economic growth, they could also widen the wealth gap and reduce funding for social programs that support low-income and minority communities. For example, One of the central economic proposals of Project 2025 is significant tax cuts for corporations and high-income individuals. Proponents argue that these tax cuts will spur investment, create jobs, and drive economic growth. However, such tax cuts primarily benefit the wealthy and large corporations, while offering little to no relief for middle and lower-income families. Furthermore, reducing taxes would likely lead to decreased government revenue, necessitating cuts to essential social programs like Medicaid, food assistance, and housing subsidies. These programs are crucial for low-income and minority communities, and reductions in their funding could exacerbate poverty and inequality. The tax policy changes, combined with deregulation efforts that often prioritize business interests over consumer protections, could lead to an economy that favors the wealthy at the expense of the most vulnerable. Education. In education, Project 2025 advocates for school choice and voucher programs. This will divert funds from public schools, exacerbating educational inequality and limiting opportunities for students in underfunded districts. For example, Project 2025 supports the expansion of voucher programs that allow parents to use public funding to send their children to private or charter schools. Proponents believe this increases competition and gives parents more options to choose the best educational setting for their children. However, this diverts much-needed funds away from public schools, which serve the majority of students, including those from low-income and minority families. When public schools lose funding, they struggle to provide quality education, maintain facilities, and offer extracurricular programs. This can lead to overcrowded classrooms, outdated materials, and a lack of resources, disproportionately affecting students in already underfunded districts. The result is an educational landscape where wealthier families can afford better opportunities, while disadvantaged students are left behind, deepening the educational inequality gap. Healthcare. Healthcare reforms under Project 2025 emphasize reducing federal involvement and promoting private insurance. This could result in decreased access to affordable healthcare for low-income families and minorities who rely on Medicaid and other federal programs. For example, one aspect of Project 2025's healthcare reform is the proposal to convert Medicaid funding into block grants to states, giving them more control over how the funds are used. Proponents argue that this would allow states to tailor their programs to better meet local needs and reduce federal bureaucracy. However, block grants could lead to significant funding cuts and reduced coverage. States facing budget shortfalls might limit eligibility, reduce benefits, or impose work requirements, making it harder for low-income individuals and families to access health care. This could disproportionately impact minority communities, who are more likely to rely on Medicaid for their health coverage. Additionally, promoting private insurance over federal programs could lead to higher premiums and out-of-pocket costs, putting healthcare further out of reach for those already struggling to afford it. Immigration policies. Tightening immigration policies is a key component of Project 2025. Stricter enforcement and reduced legal immigration could disproportionately impact minority communities, leading to increased deportations and family separations. For example, Project 2025 includes measures to increase border security, implement more rigorous vetting processes, and reduce the number of visas available for immigrants. Proponents argue that these policies are necessary to protect national security and ensure that immigration laws are enforced. However, these measures could lead to widespread fear and uncertainty among immigrant communities, making it more difficult for families to stay together and for individuals to pursue opportunities in the United States. Increased deportations can have devastating effects on families, particularly those with mixed status members, where some are citizens and others are undocumented. This could result in children being separated from their parents, leading to emotional trauma and financial instability. Furthermore, reducing legal immigration options may limit the diversity and cultural richness that immigrants bring to the country, ultimately impacting the social fabric of communities. Civil rights rollbacks. The rollback of civil rights protections is a significant concern. Project 2025 could lead to weaker enforcement of anti-discrimination laws and reduced support for affirmative action, impacting the rights of minorities across various sectors. For example, Project 2025 includes proposals to review and potentially repeal executive orders and regulations that mandate affirmative action in employment and education. Proponents argue that these measures are necessary to ensure that individuals are judged based on merit rather than race or gender. However, eliminating affirmative action could reverse progress made in diversifying workplaces and educational institutions. Without these protections, minority groups may face increased discrimination and fewer opportunities for advancement. Additionally, reducing the enforcement power of agencies like the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission could lead to fewer investigations and prosecutions of discrimination cases, making it harder for victims to seek justice. This rollback of civil rights protections could erode the gains made in achieving equality and justice for all citizens, particularly those from historically marginalized communities. Reduction in social services. A reduction in social services is a core element of Project 2025. Cuts to welfare programs, food assistance, and housing support would disproportionately affect minority communities, increasing poverty and hardship. For example, Project 2025 proposes significant cuts to programs like Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, which provides food assistance to millions of low-income individuals and families. Proponents argue that reducing these programs will encourage self-sufficiency and reduce dependency on government aid. However, such cuts will leave many vulnerable individuals without the necessary resources to meet their basic needs. Reducing funding for housing support programs like Section 8 could lead to an increase in homelessness, particularly among minority communities who are more likely to depend on these services. Additionally, cuts to welfare programs could force families to make difficult choices between food, housing, and healthcare, exacerbating the cycle of poverty and hardship. This reduction in social services could have far-reaching impacts, increasing inequality and making it more difficult for low-income and minority families to achieve economic stability and improve their quality of life. Transgender rights. Project 2025 proposals could also significantly impact transgender rights, particularly in healthcare and civil rights protections. By reducing federal involvement in healthcare and promoting private insurance, transgender individuals may find it harder to access necessary medical services. For example, Project 2025 advocates for policies that allow private insurers to have more control over their coverage options. This could lead to insurers choosing not to cover gender-affirming treatments such as hormone therapy and surgeries, which are crucial for the well-being of transgender individuals. Additionally, the reduction of federal oversight might result in fewer protections against discrimination in healthcare settings, making it more challenging for transgender people to receive respectful and adequate medical care. Impact on teachers and librarians. Project 2025 could have a major impact on teachers and librarians, especially regarding how they handle educational materials related to sex education and LGBTQ+ topics. The project proposes classifying certain educational materials as obscene or pornographic, which could lead to criminal charges for educators who provide these resources. This broad definition might include books and resources on LGBTQ+ issues and comprehensive sex education. As a result, teachers and librarians may face severe legal penalties, including being registered as sex offenders. Additionally, the project supports stricter controls on the availability of books in school libraries, leading to censorship and the removal of important educational content. The fear of legal repercussions could also cause educators to avoid using certain materials, limiting students' access to a well-rounded education. In states like Florida and Texas, similar laws have already caused teachers and librarians to be more cautious about the materials they use. For instance, in Texas, certain books discussing gender identity and sexual orientation have been removed from school libraries, and teachers have faced disciplinary actions for including content considered inappropriate under the new regulations. This environment of heightened scrutiny and potential legal action makes it increasingly difficult for educators to provide comprehensive and inclusive educational resources to their students. Such measures create a chilling effect where the fear of punishment leads to self-censorship, depriving students of valuable learning opportunities. Planned Parenthood and reversing access to abortion pills. Project 2025 aims to severely restrict access to abortion pills and undermine organizations like Planned Parenthood that provide reproductive health services. The initiative includes proposals to withdraw FDA approval for mifepristone, a key drug used in medication abortions, and to reinstate strict safety protocols requiring in-person dispensing, which would effectively ban telemedicine abortions. Additionally, Project 2025 advocates for enforcing the 1873 Comstock Act to ban the mailing of abortion pills, creating a de facto nationwide restriction on these medications. These measures would significantly limit access to safe abortion options and increase barriers for individuals seeking reproductive health services, particularly in rural and underserved areas. In vitro fertilization, IVF, Project 2025 also targets in vitro fertilization, proposing new restrictions that could make the procedure less accessible. The plan includes advocating for laws that limit the number of embryos created or transferred during an IVF cycle and banning pre-implantation genetic testing. These measures are intended to address what proponents see as ethical concerns about the treatment of embryos, but could significantly reduce the availability and flexibility of IVF treatments. For example, the Alabama Supreme Court's ruling that frozen embryos have the same rights as living children has already led to some fertility clinics pausing their services, fearing legal repercussions. If Project 2025's recommendations are widely implemented, similar restrictions could spread, making IVF treatments more difficult to obtain and potentially more expensive. Overall impact on minority communities. The overall impact on minority communities could be devastating. Project 2025's proposed changes threaten to undermine progress made in civil rights, economic equality, education, healthcare access, and immigration reform. The cumulative effect of these policies could set back decades of hard-fought gains. I will leave a link to the full documents of Project 2025 so that you all can read it. In conclusion, while Project 2025 aims to create a more efficient and streamlined government, its potential consequences for minority communities are profound and troubling. It's essential to remain informed and engaged in these discussions to ensure that any reforms protect the rights and well-being of all Americans. Thank you for joining me today. Stay tuned for more insightful analysis on the issues that matter most.